As a Keller ISD student, it was embarrassing to see our district portrayed poorly, once again, as a lead story on all 4 DFW local news channels. Why did we make the news and have Keller ISD's reputation dragged through the mud again in front of 7 million people in the metro area? Sadly, the evidence points to the increasingly bad behavior of board president Charles Randklev and how he treats others he disagrees with.
The board president ordered at least one person to be removed from the meeting after people in the crowd applauded the opposition.
Can you please escort Ms. Potts out? She's being disruptive. I can hardly hear up here with her loud clapping. Can you please remove Ms. Potts for being disruptive?
After public comment, board member Ruthie Keys says that the resolution affirmed why she's stepping down after 11 years as a trustee. She was interrupted by the board president, and this is what happened next.
I'm just walking out right here. Okay, now then, for those of you that want to hear the end of this, I'll be right out there.
My video will explore 3 behavioral patterns. As someone who sees board policy impact my school, I have followed board meetings closely the last few years, and I will make a factual case why I think Randklev has shown a pattern of hostility, hypocrisy, breaks board policy, and possibly even violates the legal rights of citizens to speak and assemble at meetings. You be the judge if these actions are what we should expect from a board president. As board president, Randklev has in just 2 years led the board through many controversial policies and mishaps that have drawn public criticism. Here's a brief list, many of which made local, national, and even international news under his watch. With all the controversies since Randklev became president, it's no surprise members of the public and even some non-aligned board members wanted to make their case and disagree. But let's look at how Randklev treated them. First, he imposed the most severe limitations on speakers at the December 2023 meeting, only letting them speak for 1 minute, and only notifying them of the fact right before they spoke. Randklev claimed back at a June 2021 board meeting it was important to listen to citizens and they should have 3 to 4 minutes to speak except for very unusual circumstances.
Yeah, I'm fine with 3 or 4 minutes. So I think more time is better. I suspect that a lot of folks probably wouldn't use the 4 minutes, but again, I appreciate people that are going to take time out of their busy schedules to come to the school board meeting and basically address and share their concerns, both positive or present opportunities for the school district to improve. In cases like that, I mean, I think if you want to give folks 4 minutes to talk, I'm certainly supportive of that. I would also add too, though, here, that it says, however, no individual shall be given less than 1 minute to make comments. I guess I just want to make sure that this would only be invoked right in those kind of extraordinary circumstances, right? Not just because the board decided they didn't want to listen to folks.
It's certainly intended for only extraordinary issues.
So hearing Randklev's own words, why weren't people allowed to speak for at least 3 minutes at the December 12, 2023 board meeting for more than 1 minute? It turns out the main topic was on the controversial ability for a district to allow anyone calling themselves a pastor to potentially have access to any kid at school in advisory roles. Randklev immediately calls for only 1 minute, citing the effective time management clause that you heard him say should only be used on extreme cases.
Individuals who wanted to speak were required to sign up before the meeting began pursuant to board policy BED local. The amount of time each speaker receives may be adjusted for effective meeting management. Tonight, each individual will have 1 minute to address the board.
This was the first and only time this restriction was invoked. So was this meeting unusually long? No. So how long was this meeting length compared to other meetings? This chart shows the last 20 board meetings by the total minutes on Keller ISD's YouTube page. Notice the December 2023 meeting, the most recent, is in yellow. If all speakers were allowed 2 minutes instead of 1 and used the full extra time, the blue segment on top would be the meeting length. The green segment would be for the standard 3 minutes. It's quite clear giving everyone 2 to 3 minutes would not have added significant time, and the meeting would still be below average length. So, Randklev using the emergency excuse regarding long meeting length appears to be completely fabricated. So why would Randklev suddenly restrict the public to a single minute on the day of the meeting if his official reason doesn't hold water? It's because he can see who is speaking in advance, because he requires them to sign up online in advance. Randklev knew he was going to get the vast majority to express their disagreement of the policy by the names and concerns expressed on local social media he could see before the meeting began. In fact, almost 90% of the citizens who spoke were against the proposal Randklev supported, which is evidence of why he restricted their speech. Unfortunately, Randklev also has a history of interrupting and not allowing people to speak when they express views he doesn't like. Here is an example from the July 2022 board meeting, where Randklev interrupts a fellow trustee he disagrees with, claims she is saying something she didn't, which draws another trustee to point out Randklev is putting words in her mouth while he physically is dismissive of her actual point.
And our core values is we care for our teachers.
So you haven't talked to Tammy, but you're insinuating that she doesn't care for teachers, and by us voting for Tammy.
That's not what she's saying at all.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying on video, she said this. And so yes, I'm advocating for our teachers.
In fact, his anger and inability to allow another publicly elected trustee to speak without threatening to use his authority to silence her shocked the audience and led her to walk out in frustration, which was documented here.
After public comment, board member Ruthie Keys says that the resolution affirmed why she's stepping down after 11 years as a trustee. She was interrupted by the board president, and this is what happened next.
I'm just walking out right here. Okay, now then, for those of you that want to hear the end of this, I'll be right out there.
Randklev also interrupts citizens during their allotted times, which is prohibited by board policy, which he states at each meeting.
Trustees may not respond to audience questions or inquiries, specific comments or complaints.
However, here are two examples from the September 11, 2023 meeting, where he aggressively interrupted speakers opposed to a proposed policy, shocking them with the claim they weren't speaking about an agenda item, only to have both clearly point out they were.
I really need you to keep your comments focused on the item that's listed on the agenda.
This is about recapture.
Again, talking about representatives and all the things they may or may not have done is not talking about an item on the agenda.
I'm saying that if you guys are going to do anything, you can't just say that recapture is the issue and pretend that that you can't do anything about it when you actually can. I mean, instead of doing like political theatrics and political stunts, you could be using your political abilities on the school board to work with and actually really be making something happen at the state legislature level.
Out-of-district moneymen and loudmouths.
Sir, I appreciate the comments.
I'm getting to the point, sir, please.
Sir, you need to keep your comments focused on the agenda item, otherwise I'm going to ask you to leave.
These are 5 items that are all tied together.
Sir, there's
Your
one
item.
action item. I'm not going to ask you again. You're being disruptive.
Okay, despite a clear warning potential legal action, the costs of which will be borne by the taxpayers. And now, this is the point. You wish to prohibit the district from complying with state law. Again, the only possible result is costing the taxpayers and the district money, possible lawsuits, penalties, and a suit to pay. Who will pay for that? The taxpayers.
Randklev was so angry at the gentleman's views, he not only interrupted, he threatened to have the man removed for being disruptive by simply speaking under his allowed First Amendment rights. It would have been wrong for Randklev to simply have threatened to turn the microphone off, but far worse, he tried to intimidate the man by threatening to kick him out, which appears an apparent violation of both Keller ISD policy and the law. Perhaps most outrageous is Randklev's new love of throwing out only people he doesn't like when there is no legal disruptive reason or he applies it selectively. Remember the man who got under Randklev's skin by simply making an argument he didn't like and was threatened with being kicked out because of it? Randklev appears to have held a grudge, using his power 15 minutes later to target and kick him out of the meeting. Even though the board is prohibited from engaging with the audience, watch as Randklev interrupts board business when the gentleman stood up briefly to stretch.
Sir, can I ask why you're standing there kind of like that? Then could you please stand in the back? Some could take that as a threatening gesture. Thank you. Sir, I'm going to ask you one more time, and then I'm going to say you're disruptive. Sir, can you please sit? Sir, can you please sit? Sir, I'm asking you one more time. Can you please sit? Can we please escort him out? Thank you.
The man tried to explain he was quietly stretching, yet Randklev said he was threatening. Also note, Randklev gave him 2 contradictory commands in succession, one to move and then one to sit. Here is a photo of this man at the time, where you can see the policeman on duty has not moved an inch and professionally has assessed, this man is doing nothing threatening. Clearly, the man did nothing to meet the legal standard to remove a citizen from their right to attend public meetings. Standing at Keller ISD board meetings has always been allowed, and as these screenshots show, even involve people holding protest signs and being closer to the board than this gentleman was before Randklev threw him out as revenge. The news reports from the December 2023 meeting also referenced Randklev angrily ejecting people from the meeting. Randklev established a hostile tone early in the meeting, where he ejected a woman for claiming her applause alone was so loud he could hardly hear with her loud clapping.
The board president ordered at least one person to be removed from the meeting after people in the crowd applauded the opposition.
Can you please escort Ms. Potts out? She's being disruptive. I can hardly hear up here with her loud clapping. Can you please remove Ms. Potts for being disruptive?
That applause, as the woman was trying to explain after being ejected, was for the previous speaker who had endured a terrifying hostage ordeal and, as she noted, was a hero. Here is the full extent of applause.
Charles Lewis, followed by Denise Lynn. Ms. Potts, you can go ahead and...
The applause break was not unusual for a KISD meeting. Quite often applause is louder and longer, so why was this woman quickly singled out? Randklev not only singles her out, but knows her name. Why? Could it be that just a few minutes before she spoke to the board and offered strong criticism that as a public official, Randklev was too thin-skinned to handle? Did it meet the high standard of being substantial obstruction? If there's any doubt Randklev applies a double standard to an audience disrupting a board meeting with applause, look at his own behavior. I did an entire video on this channel about Randklev's questionable story about the book Drama, but his speech as a board member was playing to his supporters at the November 2021 board meeting. During Randklev's speech, he paused and encouraged at least 37 seconds in total of outburst applause from the audience, a clear, substantial obstruction orchestrated by himself. In fact, at the end, he thanked the crowd and appreciated it.
It would cost us nothing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Perhaps it's time for citizens to consider replacing Randklev if you agree he doesn't have the temperament or respect to serve Keller ISD, as he is up for re-election in May 2024. I know morale in my school is low, and while it's not all tied to the board or Randklev, seeing our district make the news over and over for bad reasons has not helped the last few years. Does Randklev even live up to his own standards? Look at all the evidence laid out in this video, with what he claimed he'd do on the board if elected from a forum in 2021.
And as being an academic, one of the things that I pride myself on is this idea of shared governance, right? Where the people have an opportunity to weigh in or to provide input on decisions that affect us all. And I plan on carrying that with me if elected to the school board.
One last note. While I've been interested in why Keller ISD has made the news the last few years, I don't know how many videos I'll have time for going forward. I have found a few groups that I would suggest following to stay plugged in to issues impacting our district. Thank you for watching, and please stay informed and vote on behalf of students like myself.